The Hawks is investigating the alleged theft of a Pierneef painting from former Free State Premier Ace Magashule's office. It's estimated to be worth between 6 and 8 million rand. Reports say the painting was given to one of Magashule's closest aides, who admits he received it as a gift. ENCA's Nicholas Bauer is tracking this story and joins us now. Nicholas, I mean, this is quite mind-boggling. I start by asking, has the man himself, Ace Magashule, said anything?
No. He has said very little to nothing at this point in time. We try to track him for a comment throughout the day. And it would seem as though he's trying to fall back on the old tried and tested of this matter being investigated, and he doesn't want to comment at this point in time. But I've tried to delve a little bit deeper into the story. Fact of the matter is that we are dealing with not only this Pierneef painting, but we're dealing with a whole art collection that is essentially managed by the state, be it provincial or local government level or even national level. And we're faced with a cold hard reality that government does not have a full system for actually pinpointing what they own, what is in their, what is in the government collection, and also whether or not it's being cared for properly, or even what it's worth.
Which brings me to my mind, how is it even possible that something as big as we are told this painting is, and as probably as expensive as it is bound to be if one considers how much some of his works are said to have fetched. I mean, I saw earlier Jeremy Meggs speaking to one auctioneer who was saying, only recently one of Pierneef's works, fetched something like tens of millions, of rands. I mean, how does something like that just disappear or gets given as a gift to somebody?
Well, if you think about it, it only makes sense, really. If we are faced with allegations where state coffers are being bled dry by unscrupulous public officials that are willing to take that risk of committing corruption and stealing money, when there's a plain paper trail to actually trace them to it, certainly the temptation will also be great for something that's movable, of high value, and for all intents and purposes, based on what I see and what I've encountered during the investigation of this story, is not a proper record at state level for it. I managed to speak to an art gallery curator, Jacques Machar. I chatted to him about the need for government to actually find out what it has in terms of artifacts and very, very expensive and costly art items. Let's see what he said.
National Art Bank was set up to kind of look after the collections, but there's just not enough resources available to these people to have people going all over the country and putting together a real sort of catalogue of what we have. And for me, it's really important. I think art is a wonderful part of our culture as South Africans. We've got wonderful art. We've seen South African artworks all over the world selling for a lot of money.
So this National Art Bank, these are the people who are supposed to be what? Custodians of the state's collection of artworks.
From my understanding, I think that could very well fall into their mandate, but it's not extremely clear at this point in time. We have been in discussions with the Departments of Art and Culture. We haven't got a firm answer from them as of yet as to A, who's responsible for logging and putting in records of what's owned by the state, how much it's worth, what it's being used as. Because let me just paint the picture for you here. I mean, we all know the change that the South Africa underwent as a nation in 1994, and one can imagine that there is a lot of artwork that does not tell the South African story contemporarily. In other words, it doesn't tell the 2018 South African story. However, the way art works, that artwork does not stop having some sort of value. There's intrinsic value there, just solely based on either the artist that did it, perhaps the time that it represents in terms of art. And at the end of the day, this is still assets, state assets that is owned by the people of South Africa. And if we're not taking care of them, what is going to happen to them? What is going to happen to that value? I'm very, very worried that in the future government will look back on this and say, why did we not take care or more care or log our artworks better? Because we very well may be sitting on several hundred million rands worth of art, or even art running into the billions, and we just don't even know about it. I spoke to Corruption Watch's David Lewis about this particular thing, and he also is of the opinion that while we are faced with allegations of high corruption and looting to the score of billions, why should we be surprised if government property, ranging from paintings or even other items of government property, are either stolen or put to personal use?
Theft of government property is a big deal, there's very sort of low level of accountability. I mean, using government property for private business and private purposes, very common complaint we get, mostly pertaining to government vehicles of one sort or another. So, given that, messing with public resources generally falls within the definition of corruption, these are feature quite large amongst the corruption reports that we get.
Do we know where the investigation is at the moment?
At this point in time, I only have a very bland statement, still underway.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. Nicholas Barr, who's been tracking that rather peculiar story of this very expensive artwork, which belonged to the Free State government and which was given to somebody just as a gift.